Hello, welcome back to the Quality Matters Daily Dive. I'm Kyle Chambers from Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified. So today we are diving back into one of my favorite books, Deming's Out of the Crisis. You may remember we did this on our Business Visionaries Book Club sometime last year. Really, absolutely fantastic book. Here, let me make sure I've got everything here on my little StreamYard working properly. Any case, the book here is truly one of my absolute favorites. Now, what you'll find when you go through and read it is the first half of the book, kind of great, works for every manager. Second half, we get pretty detailed, pretty technical. So it's really kind of two books crammed together. But what we're talking about today is what Deming calls the deadly diseases. Now, this sounds maybe a little dramatic, but it's really not. If you think about what creates a toxic environment for continual improvement, for quality, for management, what really creates that toxic environment? Why do some companies succeed and others fail? And we look a lot of times at the things we can do to succeed. And so this is where in the 90s and early 2000s, billions of dollars spent on Lean and Six Sigma initiatives. I'm not saying that Lean and Six Sigma are not worth pursuing, but I'm going to say that these processes, which really folks like Deming and Duran, who we've been talking about, really instrumental in putting into place, really developing the whole idea of everything that came about afterwards, these must be added on to a successful management system. And when I say management system, I don't mean just an ISO 9001 or API Q1 or AS 9100 compliance system. I mean truly the management system, how we manage and maintain our business and our organization. So it's absolutely critical. So today we are going to be talking about the deadly diseases. So let me pull up a little bit here. Now, I have realized that taking the little pictures and of the book and whatever we're going to talk about might not work best. So we're going to be working on maybe setting up a little separate camera section for something there, but we'll make do with what we've got here. So let's talk about deadly diseases here. So Deming defines deadly disease as deadly disease afflicts most companies in the Western world. Tend to agree. This was written decades ago. Unfortunately, not a lot has changed. Now, that was his hope and theory with the out of the crisis, that we would get out of this crisis of bad management systems. Unfortunately, we're still stuck there in a lot of ways. So hopefully, this is just one more piece in the right direction to help us rejuvenate what is unfortunately a failed management system for a lot of companies. All right, so the first of these deadly diseases. So let's talk a little bit about it. Enumeration of deadly diseases. So what he says here is that there's a lack of constancy of purpose to plan products and services that will help have a market and keep the company in business and provide jobs. Now, I think when most of y'all think about ISO 9001, how many of y'all, if I say ISO 9001, think good products to market, keep jobs, provide new jobs, how many of you think that? Probably not a lot. I asked someone a while back, I said, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say ISO 9001? His answer was my pillow. I'm like, your pillow? I'm like, are you talking about the company, My Pillow? And he's like, no, my pillow, because it makes me want to go to sleep. And unfortunately, that's oftentimes true. But what we're talking about here with the deadly diseases is a little bit different. So another key is the emphasis on short-term profits and short-term thinking. I think we can all agree this is an issue. Long-term thinking is a fantastic idea for a TED Talk, fantastic idea for a company, some kickoff event or annual meeting. But really, what's long-run thinking versus short-term thinking? These are problems that really have to be reviewed and addressed in each organization to really dig down and think about. Also, if you read the book, lots in there. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to cover a lot more of what's in here in the daily dive. I promise not to make this just the Edward Deming hour, but really great and fantastic ideas. So let me flip open here, and I'll read from a little bit more. The next one here that we're going to talk about is evaluation of performance or merit rating or annual review. Now, you're probably going to be thinking, well, Kyle, everyone's got to have an annual review. Everyone's got to have some sort of merit rating. How do we evaluate our employees? How do we justify raises and justify promotions if we're not doing an annual review? Valid point. There are other methods in there, which we'll make sure to cover at some point in the future here. But there are other methods than just the annual review. I'll give you a small example. And this is what we do here at Texas Quality. Is we have, in addition to the annual review, we have what we call our weekly set and met. And so the weekly set and met means that each of our employees, on a weekly basis, they fill out a survey at the end of the week. Now, the survey is really stupidly simple. I'd like to claim credit for this, but I robbed most of this idea from Dave Ramsey's EntreLeadership, another fantastic book all business owners, operators, managers just have to read. In any case, what we do in our set and met is we evaluate, what's your stress level this week? On a 1 to 5, I ask, how's your workload this week? What was the high point of your week? What's the low point of your week? And what are your goals for the upcoming week? Okay. Now, what this allows me to do is I can go through, and it gives me a real good litmus test on my company and how my folks are doing. Are they overstressed and overworked in general? Do they feel like they have too much work, not enough work? Where are we at? It helps me gauge how we're dividing resources. And then I can take a look at what were your goals from last week. Great. Perfect conversation topic. How'd you do on those? What are your goals for this week? Great. Okay. All that makes sense. And it gives us a chance to reevaluate and fine tune. So just some ideas there, as opposed to just relying on an annual review. And seriously, is there anyone that hasn't run into this to where you do your annual review and you're sitting there with your boss like, all right, you're giving me a 3 out of 5 on this, but first time you said anything to me about it this year, you think maybe we could have chatted about it prior to this? I think we've all had that issue. Okay, we'll keep going. That's a whole other fun rabbit trail to go down. All right, so they talk about mobility of management, job hopping. Okay, this was an issue decades ago. And I tell you, the number one issue that we are seeing with our clients right now is that they cannot keep folks in the job long enough. Whether you call it the gig economy, the great resignation, whatever you want to term it, the fact is companies more and more and more than ever are struggling with finding and keeping good talent. Now, a lot of those issues, finding and keeping good talent, can be solved through the elimination of some of these deadly diseases. But these are what's causing it. So we got to find some root cause for that job hopping there. But I'll bet you money that if we can solve some of these other diseases, the job hopping will tend to disappear. Let's just think about it. With one we were just talking about before, evaluation of performance and merit rating or an annual review. Okay, well, if I've got good regular contact with my boss, I know what I'm responsible for and what I'm not responsible for. And then the annual review, there's no surprise. It's like, yeah, I could have filled this in for you because you and I've been talking pretty regular throughout this whole process. I'm going to bet you money those employees are a lot less likely to hop to the next best opportunity. All right. Another one, management by use of visible figures with little or no consideration of figures that are unknown or unknowable. That's a fun one. It's a real fun one here. So what he's saying is there's a lot of numbers that we just can't track. Now, folks try to do some good with it, and there's things like a net promoter score and things of this nature. But really, can you measure, truly think about it, how could you measure the total long-term impact? Because again, we want to be thinking long-term, not short-term. How can you measure the true long-term impact of a bad customer interaction? You had a failed project. It went south. You're not going to work with the customer again. We could easily say, well, we know what we lost in revenue of that customer. But how on earth could you collect all of the data necessary to identify if this is a problem in a month or 6 months? How much long-term business did you lose? Now, you may say, well, I don't really get that many referrals directly from my customers. No, but people talk. And reputation is hard to put a number on. We talk about this in our consultation work a lot of times when we're talking about customer satisfaction. So folks want to talk about customer satisfaction. fantastic. Lots of great ways to talk about customer satisfaction. If you check yesterday's video, we talked about on-time delivery. Let me tell you, customers getting stuff late ain't very satisfied. I think that's part of Amazon's key to success over eBay. Like, we all loved eBay when I could get weird, random stuff cheap, but Lord knows how long it's going to take to get here. Well, Amazon comes in and says, hey, we've got good prices, tons of stuff, and we'll get it to you tomorrow. I'll pay an extra $10 to know I'm going to get it tomorrow. On-time delivery, it's huge. Do not underestimate the value of it. But that's not everything there is to customer satisfaction. So another big component of customer satisfaction, we just can't really test. We can't really evaluate. There's a lot that goes into it. So Deming's point here is don't rely solely on the numbers you see. Management by dashboard it's a problem. It's really, really a problem. So let's think about some of these deadly diseases and things that we could do about it. So let's go to one of these first ones here. We've got a lack of constancy of purpose to plan products and services that have a market and keep the company in business and provide jobs. I'll throw that back up on the screen here because I think this is probably where we're going to spend most of the rest of our time here today. There's a lack of constancy of purpose. So what does that mean? That's kind of odd language. I don't think many of us walk around in our daily life speaking this way. But the lack of constancy of purpose to plan product and services that have a market and keep the company in business and provide jobs. I think we just defined what capitalism is not to be. And, I think a lot of and I'm not going to get in the political world here, but we all know that there's tons of debate in politics and policy today about capitalism or not capitalism. What is it? What isn't it? Deming kind of just described what good capitalism is. And he described what bad is, but we know the inverse of it. So good version of capitalism, a good way to run your business is to provide constancy of purpose, to plan for products and services, not that make money, plan products and services that will have a market, not just do have a market, will have a market and keep the company in business and provide jobs. So when I read this, I actually go back to thinking about Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs, we'll put aside all of the bad management styles that he had, but what he was so amazingly good at was identifying what the market would need. I don't think anyone thought we need an iPhone when he created the iPhone. We all kind of knew this. Now, I know he wasn't the first one to do all of these, but he was the first one to really say, there is a place in the market. We will create the place and provide it. Fantastic. It has revolutionized our world. Same thing with the Mac and all of these other products that Apple put into place. Okay, so let's go back to the text here. And we want to provide jobs. I think we all see this as a threat with so much automation coming into the workforce. And this was actually considered a threat at the time Deming wrote this, is we're all afraid of losing a job. And so now there's so much talk about changes in minimum wage and benefits to be offered. And again, I'm not going to get into the politics of it. But what I will say is if your company is dedicated to providing a purpose and a plan for your products and services, you identify the market, you identify what the market will be, and you work very diligently towards that goal, well, we're going to have to bring great folks along the way. We're going to have to bring great folks in along the way. We're going to have to maintain a good, constant relationship with them. The emphasis on short-term profits, short-term thinking. Look, I got to tell you, I've been guilty of it myself. I've been real guilty of it myself. There's another fantastic book I think I mentioned last time, the Start With No. I'll have to see if I can pull that up on Audible. I forget the author's name for the moment. Start With No, Jim Camp. Yes. So Start With No, fantastic book. So what I would argue with the Start With No philosophy, one of the things that he says is if there's any level of neediness in a negotiation, it's not going to go well. I've run into that, especially in the first year that I got the business started. Look, you quit your job, you got 3 kids, and you're like, hey, I need to take care of the family, but also need to start a business. Let me tell you, you're kind of needy and desperate for some work at times. During COVID, when everything is shut down, and for a short period of time, folks could afford bad long-term decision, bad short-term decision, bad long-term decision, but short-term they could say we're just going to cut the quality budget. Let me tell you, you get pretty needy, you get pretty desperate to get some work to keep your people employed and to take care of your family. Well, I can tell you without doubt, every one of those projects that we jumped into where there was some neediness on our part, the negotiation was bad. The rollout wasn't as good as it could have been. Customer satisfaction wasn't as good as it been. Our long-term impact on our business was not nearly as good as it could have been. So, but I was looking at the short-term profits because we had to get the revenue in and do something. Now, not saying in hindsight I know exactly how we could have done that differently during COVID. First couple of years of the business, definitely. But the point is that anytime you focus on those short-term goals, you may get a good short-term return, but long-term, it's going to be very, very damaging and very detrimental to your organization. We talk about the evaluation performance. I touched on that pretty good there, but let me point out one other thing. We'll probably do a full video on this in the future as well. And I'm actually in the process right now of redoing it all myself. So I'm taking my own medicine right now. I got to tell you, it's not necessarily the easiest medicine to take, but you want to make sure you have a job description for every position. But I know that most of our audience here are small business owners and operators, and we all wear lots of hats. So what we have done, and I'm in the process of rewriting our job descriptions here, is we're rewriting these job descriptions in what's called a key results area format. So the job description is a one-pager. If I can't tell you what your job is in one page, I did something wrong. I'm not going to list out every potential duty and responsibility because I want to hire folks that know how to take ownership, responsibility, and get the job done. But I'm identifying the key results that you are responsible for that job. Then in our annual review, I can analyze each of those key results. How well did you do getting there? I'm also analyzing myself. How well did I do coaching you and training you and supporting you to get there over the course of the year? But the key results area is really great. But again, you're saying, well, Kyle, we wear multiple hats. Not a problem. That is not a problem at all. So let's take one of our employees. He is the account manager for most of our clients. He is a QMS developer, which is basically our term for consultant, because I'll be honest with you, I kind of think the word consultant's a little dirty, but we can discuss that another time. And he's also a project manager. Okay, well, you know what? He's got 3 job descriptions. And then we identify, well, the account management is going to be about 25% of your time. The QMS development is going to be about another 20% of your time. And the project manager is going to be this percentage of your time. Fantastic. So then when we're going to go through and do his annual review, well, what do you think we're going to do? We're going to analyze all 3 of those job descriptions that were assigned to him for that period of time and rate him on all of those. So again, this gets very far beyond that simple annual review and merit-based reporting, and honestly, the bullcrap job review that I think we've all been through and can universally say we hate. And I think I touched pretty good on the management by visible figures. Now, this, again, it's a hard one, but you really have to evaluate the idea of unintended consequences. Now, this is a problem not just in business, politics, family, everywhere. We all take an action knowing the good that we hope to get out of it, but sometimes there's unintended consequences that are much more difficult to plan for and to calculate. So always keep in mind what's out there that we cannot put a number to. I know that's contrary to what a lot of folks want to think, but really do consider and evaluate that. And I'll show the flip side of it. So I think we've all had these kind of weird happenstance events in life. We're like, man, if I hadn't met that one person at this one event, I never would have got XYZ opportunities. And like the whole trajectory of my career or even my life changed. Well, you don't know how many of those wonderful opportunities you missed out on because of a negative experience with one of your customers. So keep that in mind. Maybe I can't track what I lost, but I sure can estimate the good that could come otherwise. While we cannot control luck, what we can do is we can operate and live in a manner to create the most opportunity for the most good luck. If we're managing the rest of our business well, and avoiding some of these diseases, we're going to be in good shape. So that's all I got for you today on our daily dive. I hope this is something that is useful and beneficial to you. If it is, be sure to subscribe to us on Rumble. We are streaming these on live stream and Rumble exclusively. So be sure to find us on there, subscribe, like, and most of all, share the content if this is something that's of value to you. If you've got some issues in your business that you would love some help with, feel free to contact us. We never charge for a phone call. Give us a call, ask us some questions. We'll see what you can do to help you out, point you in the right direction. So with that, you guys have a great day, and I hope to hear from you soon.